All right. We are here for the interview of Dr. Fisher, and my name is Ian Kline, and we're doing this for the oral history projects for the College Honors Program. So just to start off, what I would like to do, Dr. Fisher, is just get a little bit of your background. I do know a little bit of it, but just for the sake of the camera. Where did you come from before you got to Yavapai College?
Well, I actually went to high school in Flagstaff at Coconino High School, and went to NAU to school, and then I started teaching in the public schools. I taught in Colorado for a few years, and in Montana for a few years, and then ended up back in Arizona, going to the University of Arizona in Tucson to do my doctoral work. From there, I moved up to Prescott. And I actually moved to Prescott and taught for 2 years at Prescott High School. And then the former choir director, the gentleman who started the music program at Yavapai College, whose name is Jim Burns, Jim retired, and I was just fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time to get that job here. And that was the fall of 1984.
1984, so that's 20-some years here.
24 years now.
Years, yeah. So how long had the music department been established before that time?
Well, Mr. Burns had been here since the beginning of the school. I'm not sure if he was here on the very first year or whether I'm not positive of when he came at the first or second year, but one of the very first things they did at Yavapai College was to establish a music program, of which Mr. Burns was both the band director and the choir director at that time.
Okay. So when you came on, what kind of, were you still in charge of both the choir and the band, or had things expanded a little bit?
By that time, a few years after the school had gotten started, the music program had expanded enough that Yavapai College was able to hire another music instructor, Mr. Rich Longfield, who became the head of the instrumental music program, and Mr. Burns stayed as the choral director. So by 1984, when Mr. Burns retired, I was hired to cover the choral side of the program.
Okay, cool. So since 1984, since you've been here, what kind of things has the choral department done? Have they been any special trips or gone anywhere to perform? What kind of performances have you guys done?
Oh, well, we specialize in performances. Yeah. So we've. I can remember that very first year there were 2 choirs and with a total of 50 singers in those choirs. 24 years later, we're at 6 choirs with just a few under 200 enrolled in the choirs singing. We have, and by the way, in those first years, the choir program was up in the upstairs of Building 2, where the present nursing department is. We were there. At that time, there was no performing hall center on the campus, but the college had gotten a hold of, through a rental agreement, the Elks Theater downtown. So the Elks Theater at that time was then leased to the college, and we would do our concerts down in the old Elks Theater down on Gurley Street. It was then, I believe, it wasn't until 1990, I'll have to look at my notes, I think in the spring of 1992 was when the present performance hall was opened. The voters of the public had given the school some money to do that, and that's when we were able to move out of that location and where then the nurses took over, and we moved into that new building.
Cool.
Now, of course, during that time, choirs have taken The student choirs travel and do tours all over Arizona, stopping in and doing workshops at high schools. The adult choirs have had opportunities to do some international tours. A mixed chamber choir back in 1990? No, let me see. The summer of 1988, we took our first trip to a concert tour to Mexico City.
Oh, fun.
So we performed in Mexico City. A few years after that, we did a concert tour in England. A few years after that, we did a concert tour in Italy. After that, there was a trip, concert tour in Spain, and choirs have also been to actually Italy twice. There's been a Scandinavian concert tour that has happened. There's been another tour of Austria, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, and as well as trips in the States themselves. So back in 1990, I believe, let me check to see. Yes, in 1990, Yavapai College received an invitation from an organizing organization to join in with 6 other choirs from around the United States to do a performance of the Mozart Requiem at Carnegie Hall. So we took 65 students from Yavapai College to New York and did a Carnegie Hall concert. Yes. Other times we've traveled up to Seattle to do week-long international choral competitions and festivals in Seattle. On 2 different occasions, I had an opportunity to take choirs down to Caborca in Sonora, Mexico, since Caborca is Prescott's sister city.
Yes.
We were working in conjunction with the sister city organization and did performances there as well.
So you guys have just been all over the place.
We have. There have been some times during a year when the choirs, when they do performances at Christmas time, for example, at parties, and there have been years when the different choirs have sung up to 50 or 60 concerts per year.
Wow.
Programs, large concerts, small programs.
Wow. So what in regards to your students, you're obviously a teacher, right? So we want to know, well, I want to know what some of these students have done, and do you still keep in contact with them, and kind of where has Yavapai sent these people, these students?
There are several of these students who have really made an important landmark, and I'll have to really dredge up some memories, and I apologize if in between this I've lost contact with some of them, but there was a young student whose name was Brent Mullane, a former member of the College Honors Program, who went on to get a degree in music education and taught for several years in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Oh.
And then has recently moved back to the United States and is currently teaching music in Illinois somewhere.
Oh, cool.
Another outstanding student is Christina Kuda. Christina Kuda, who now is Christina Kuda Robertson, has successfully made a wonderful career as a concert pianist and runs a wonderful teaching studio right here in the Prescott area. She's a pianist and of the highest caliber. Another young man whose name is David Katz. David is now a singer, an opera singer in the New York area, and makes a career singing roles in operas in the New York area. Probably most of the students that are successes are those who end up working in the teaching field and are out teaching at public schools, in the public schools, probably all over. Yeah, there was another young man whose name was Matt Davis. Matt went from here to Southern Methodist University, I believe, and ended up sort of shifting a little bit into a career in movie film, the film area, where he was a sound technician and helping out with all kinds of things. And he currently is working in Los Angeles, I believe, doing TV films and other major films. Another fellow, Jack Bowling, ended up getting a job running the sound mechanism there in the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. So Yavapai College graduates are
everywhere.
There they are.
So when did you, switching gears a little bit, when did you start leading the College Honors Program, and how did that come about?
Well, let's see. The Honors Program was in the fall of 2005. The job came open, and so at that point I thought that I would go ahead and throw my hat in the ring, and was fortunate enough to have worked for 2 years as the coordinator of the honors program. In one year, in addition to all of the activities that the students were doing around town in terms of community service and raising money for cancer and diabetes research and all that, in that first year we ended up taking an educational tour to Washington, D.C. We also, in the next year, did research and took our trip to the United States Virgin Islands, where we lived in tents in the jungle for a week, and it was somewhat like Survivor.
Yeah. Can you give a little bit of, do you have any highlights from those trips that you'd like to?
Well, the Washington, D.C. trip we spent, the honors students spent most of the time going to the various Smithsonian museums. That's where you can really
get lost for a long time.
Oh my gosh, the information and the intrigue of those areas, that was extremely fascinating. But we also stopped at Arlington National Cemetery, able to find the grave of Bucky O'Neill, who was the fellow from Prescott who organized the Prescott unit of the Rough Riders.
Oh, cool.
So we knew that he had died in the Spanish War, and so we thought it would be kind of fun to see if we could find his grave site in Arlington. So we did that. We of course had an opportunity to stop by, but not necessarily in the Capitol building. We went to the White House to see these places. Yeah. The trip to the Virgin Islands was more of a trip that where we were trying to get back. Rather than doing an urban trip, we were looking at trying to do the exact opposite, trying to see do an exploration of the Earth that didn't have anything to do with man's development of the area. So we went to a national park in the Virgin Islands, and where the National Park Service's mission is to preserve the land in its pristine shape. So we had done research on marine life, and we all took a crack at doing some snorkeling to try to see coral and all of the sea life, and we took hikes through the jungle to identify rainforest vegetation, and lived in tents and fought off insects, and we found out what that side of
big insects or little
living in nature was all about.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, since we're kind of going along the trip vein, can you recount some of the other trips that you've made before that? You've talked about you've been all over the world, to Carnegie Hall, to just Austria, all kinds of places. Can you recount some of those trips for us?
The first trip, the first major international trip to Mexico City was back in 1988. It was a huge intrigue, and because at that time, right before I ended up coming to Yavapai, I had finished my doctoral work at the University of Arizona in Tucson, and my doctoral dissertation was written on the topic of I wanted to find who the earliest European composer of music was who wrote music in the New World. So I would go back to the time of Cortez and those early Spanish explorers who came over in the very end of the 15th century, and I researched musicians who were over here. They came over always associated with the Catholic Church. They were doing. They were part of the as the Catholics set up their churches in the New World. They always sent a musician over to be a part of it. So I was trying to track them through church records, and I at that time, that was many years ago. Probably that was 1984 when I had finished that research. So I'm sure in 24 or 5 or 27 years that there's been a lot more research in this area. But at that time, I think I found maybe the first guy to write music, and I found that music in some archives down in the cathedral of the National Cathedral in Mexico City, and a bunch of other music. So we prepared a concert that included some of that early music that had not been performed, had been sitting down in the archives since perhaps 1620, and we found it. So as part of our trip, we had been in contact with the Mexican government, and we received an invitation to do a performance in the National Cathedral right there in Mexico City, and to do music, authentic Mexican music, European music written in Mexico, in the National Cathedral, and it was an amazing. That concert was something that was I will always remember. Partly because as we were flying into Mexico City, there was a big thunderstorm right over Mexico City, the plane had trouble landing. And at one time, as we were trying to approach the landing strip, we hit an air pocket, and the plane sort of flips up on its side, and the guy pulls out of the landing, and we circle around. They say, you know, we just can't land. We're all in there thinking we're going to crash, and then he finally says, we're about out of gas, so we're going to have to fly to Acapulco. And we got to Acapulco. Of course, this was 1 o'clock in the morning. It's in the middle of the night. We're now in Acapulco. We have to catch another flight back in the middle of the night to Mexico City. We get to Mexico City about 2 in the morning. We get onto a bus that's taking us to our motel, and on the freeway, some cars stop in front of the bus, and we stop, and some nationals get out and start arguing with the bus driver, and the guy outside of the bus reaches down and grabs a rock and smashes the front window out of the bus.
Oh my God!
And all of the Yavapai College musicians are sitting there going, "Wow, we just about crashed in a plane. We got lost in Acapulco. Now we're and I think we finally got to bed about 4 o'clock that morning, and then had to get up and go sing this concert. And the concert was so incredibly beautiful, and in the cathedral, and the music was so exquisite and our feelings were so close to the surface that when we finished our concert, just everybody in the choir just started to weep. Although in part I suppose it was joy, but it just somehow one's feeling of emotions was so at the surface level.
Wow.
And that was an incredible concert, probably the most moving concert of my career at Yavapai. Although, looking back, we probably weren't musically as good as we should have been, being as tired, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
In subsequent days while we were down there, we participated in a mass at Our Lady of Guadalupe Basilica. We sang for Mass for there were 5,000 parishioners there at that, and it was just an amazing thing. In England, we mostly did performances around the London area, but we did go out to Oxford University, and the highlight of that trip for me was doing a concert on in this small performing venue where Mozart had performed when he was 7 or 8 years old, and to be standing and conducting and doing the performance in the exact location where Mozart had been as a child was unbelievable. In Italy, we actually had been chosen to represent, our choir had been chosen to participate in a world festival where the choir from Yavapai College was chosen to represent the United States.
Oh, cool.
We competed against 17 other countries. So there were 17 countries represented, where each country could bring one choir, and we performed in that. It was a head-to-head competition against the Germans and the Italians.
How did you get picked for that?
Through an audition tape.
Cool.
We sent in an audition tape and were selected to participate in that. And in the competition, I wish that I could be able to say that we were as successful as the Yavapai College soccer team with all of its national championships. But out of 17 countries, we did end up placing 7th.
That's not too bad.
7th in the
that's
world.
International. Not national.
That was a wonderful.
And what year was that again?
Let me see. There's so many of these years. Toward England. That would have been the summer of 1994 when we did that. I think, though, in those types of festivals, the thing it's one thing to compete against each other, but when we lived in a village much like you would do in the Olympics, where there were choirs from 16 other countries, and the singers would all, we would be eating together in cafeterias and while the meals were going on, maybe the choir from Argentina would start to sing a song, and then when they were done, the choir from Sweden would sing, and it was an amazing process of collegiality that happens among musicians who all share in the world of music. And although at one moment we're competing against each other, at another moment we're embracing each other. Which sort of takes me to that last trip we took to Spain. We sang we were hosted by choirs in Spain, and after each of those choral concerts, we would meet with the other choir members, and there would be an after-concert gathering where the choirs would just sing for each other and share the local food, and also on that trip we were selected. There's a large choral festival in Spain, and we were selected to be the opening choir for the festival. It was a several-week festival of choirs coming in, and we had the honor of being the guest choir and opened that festival.
Cool.
Amazing experiences that we've had, and to share that with the Yavapai College students is just our experiences that. For these years, all of those singers are out there and still in the community. Many of them still sing in choirs that are here, and others are around and sharing those experiences with those people creates an amazing spider's web of connections.
But how much time does it take for you guys to get prepared for a festival like that? I mean,
well, an international festival, it takes. We usually start working on the music at least 2 years before we do the trip.
And how does that work with a two-year college? I mean.
Well, if we know that we're going on the trip, then 2 years before we go, whoever's here we start working on the music. Now, some of the choirs that go, those members will be here. They will lock in on the trip, and will make a commitment to that 2 years. That 2-year commitment of person with that's going to, the end result will be the trip. Several of these trips, because we are a community college, the trips are also, the choirs have a lot of community folks that are in the choirs. So those people, they are here all the time, so they're available to take the trips. The student choirs, we usually spend a little more time doing concert tours just around the state of Arizona. And most of our tours, our tours are more educationally focused in terms of doing workshops with local high schools. So the student choir will stop in at Prescott High School or Chino or Flagstaff High School or Kingman or wherever. We'll stop in, do choral workshops with their high school choir programs, and so we try to connect with the local high schools in that way. It also helps with our recruitment of students, as the students go, wow, that going to Yavapai sounds like that might be a nice thing to do.
About how many students do you have come in, usually, on average, into your music program?
Like I said, right now we have, right now, and this is the fall of 2007. We have 178 students singing in 5 choirs right this minute. There'll be 6 choirs next semester. There are some choirs that come and go depending on the semester. But we're just about right now heading into our Christmas Messiah program, and this year for Messiah we have 211 singers that will be singing. We will put all of the choirs together for that big performance.
Cool.
And so we fluctuate somewhere. Although I was looking up some notes back in 1980. Let's see, I got here in 1984. It was 1985. I had been here 1 year and a year and a half. We do the Messiah concert every other year. And 1985 was the first year that I was able to be a part of it. And I had worked and worked and worked. When I first got here in '84, there were 50 singers in 2 choirs. And we worked, and we went out into the public and invited people to join us for Messiah, and I was just elated in 1985 when we did Messiah, and we ended up with 99 singers. We were really trying to get 100 singers. I thought, wow, I can't even imagine doing a program with a choir of 100. That was there, and I worked hard, and now we're doing it with over 200 singers from the Prescott area.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
maybe one of the other things that we did along the way, back in 1986, we started doing Renaissance dinner theater productions.
Cool, that's fun.
So for about 12 years, we now have a full set of Renaissance costumes, and we would learn dozens and dozens of Renaissance songs, and we would put on a dinner theater production and serve meals and have a theatrical skit, comedy with the jester and the king and queen and all of those things. So we've done probably 15 Renaissance dinner theater productions, which is another just really fun thing for the students to do. It is kind of interesting that in the music department one of the strengths of being in choirs is that it really gives students an activity to do that sort of goes beyond slugging it out in the standard classroom environment. And we've noticed that students that are involved in activities while they're on campus have a tendency to have a higher and more a better experience while they're here. They're doing things, they're enjoying things beyond the just writing papers and things of that nature. And the more they're involved with activities, the better the experience is for them. They go away with a lot of memories, and they keep coming back saying, wow, I remember when we sang at this concert or we did this performance. And those are things that that create the memories that last longer than maybe what you learned in my wife's English class. Although
I've heard she's good. I'm thinking her next semester.
She'll at least help the students write those papers and introduce Shakespeare. She's doing a great job on the Shakespeare program. Yeah, but she does some of the same things that we try to do in the music department, and that's get the students involved by taking them to plays and the activities that go along with the experience is something that's really a lot of fun and creates memories.
Cool. What kind of is there any other concert memories that you have of extraordinary concerts or shows that you guys have done?
Well, there was a trip when we went down to Caborca that we took the vocal ensemble. There were I had met up with the leaders of the sister city organization here in town, and they were trying to work out a cultural exchange with the folks in Caborca to allow us to go down and sing in Caborca, and also to visit the University of Sonora to do to meet up with students in Mexico, and sort of the biggest challenge for that was that we of course, in order to go into Mexico on that trip, we ended up driving ourselves down there rather than like other international trips. When we go, we would fly and we would have passports and all the, there was sort of an element of control over that, where here we were driving Yavapai College vans down into Mexico, and so we had to deal with the getting the extra insurance, making sure that was all covered right, and there were some for the students that went with us, it was a different environment. Caborca is not the same as going to London or to Milan. Caborca is a more a rugged sort of city. But we went, and they had converted an old movie theater into a performance hall. Oh, cool. And we went down and we did a concert at that location, and the people from Caborca came, and we discovered that they were the people who were there at those concerts were the most loving and gracious people that we had met maybe anywhere. The response of people from a poorer community who had an opportunity to come to an activity that was a free concert sponsored by their municipal government, and the people were. I don't know if I can ever remember in all of our concerts any audience that was more appreciative, and on that trip they got together, and the organizers from Caborca put together dinners for us, and we were like rock stars or something. It was just, the students came back from that trip going, I cannot believe, because we sometimes have an idea that of what a preconceived idea of what the Mexican people are like, and which sets up a bias. But when we got there, we discovered that the people themselves are extremely loving, extremely gracious, people, and that was a strong memory of something that was sort of part of the trip, but not necessarily totally involved with the concert itself. The concert is what set up the opportunity for that to happen. One other trip that we took, not that same trip, but we took years later another trip down into Caborca, and there's a Father Kino mission church there that is the exact architectural duplicate of the church that's down in Tucson, San Javier del Bac. And their mission church was there, and we received permission to do a concert in that church. We were the first American choir, American music group to ever be granted permission to do a performance in that very sacred location. And so I had pulled up some of that old music that I had done research in Mexico. So, you know, in order to sort of make that work with the people that were in charge of it, so we would do part of our concert programming would be you know, original music, the earliest music written in Mexico. So there was a historical connection. Of course, that music was written for the Catholic Church itself, so it fit.
Was that originally in Latin?
Yes, all of that was in Latin. And that was a wonderful experience also. The acoustical properties of that old mission church were exquisite.
It's really cool. I like the architecture that they make the sounds so good.
Yeah, it is.
But,
yeah.
Sir, I saw the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde concerts that you guys did. Is there any other I don't know, themed concerts that you guys have done that was spectacular, but I was wondering if you guys had any.
Well, we have several themed concerts. Each semester, the music department, in terms of its choral music, we do a main concert on campus midway through the semester. That's our midterm exam. And then at the end of the semester, we do a concert. And always in the fall, the end of the semester concert lines itself up with a holiday season, so it has a holiday focus, whether it's Messiah one year or other holiday music. And then in the springtime, the end of the semester concert, we alternate between 1 year doing a concert that's called Music of America. So we focus on American composers and music from our country. And then on the off year, which will happen this year, we do a concert called Music of World Cultures. So we do choral music that's written anywhere outside of the United States. So we have a chance to explore African music and South American music and music from Czechoslovakia. I'm sorry, the Czech Republic.
Czech Republic now.
I guess I'm going to remember. Anyway, that's a great program. We do on those midterm shows, part of what we do in those shows, one choir, remember on those concerts, there's 5 different choirs that are usually performing on those concerts. So there's a whole variety of types of music that are being done by the different choirs. And but we do, one choir does a little 10-minute selections from a musical, and so we've done Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we've done Phantom of the Opera, we've done My Fair Lady, and Les Mis, and I'm not exactly sure what we'll do next semester. Maybe Oklahoma. I don't know. The public, though, really loves our concert public that comes. They really enjoy that segment of the show, as well as the other styles of music.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it. We try to vary the music to keep the listening public entertained, and not only entertained, because we do music of all throughout the development of choral music in history, we do Renaissance music and Baroque music, and so it's an educational experience as well as an entertainment.
Okay, so I think we have a little bit of time. When did you guys move into this building, this new building that you have now?
Was that 1990? Let's see, the spring of 1992, and I must say it was a sadness. I had been here already for a whole number of years, and I had put in for a sabbatical leave. So the year that the performance hall actually opened, I was on leave that academic year doing studies. That was the beginning of my fascination with Mozart.
Yeah.
So I started my Mozart
my
studies.
brother was telling me about that.
So since 1991, when that theater was opened, that's when I've just become enamored with Mozart. But wow, to have that theater is just really a blessing for the music and performing arts program and for the community at large.
All kinds of amazing things that are going on there.
It's busy. It's a busy place. A nice central place for people in the community to really take advantage of that wonderful facility.
Yeah, it's really been really good. But I think we're about out of time. It went a lot quicker than. Just an interesting person. How could you?
It's a wonderful program that you guys are doing. I can tell you that over those 24 years, there's been wonderful growth in Yavapai College. It's been just a pleasure to be a part of this institution for all of those years, and hopefully I'll still be here for a little while longer.
We hope so. Well, thank you we appreciate very much that you came to talk with us.